Blitz!
I'm Travis Downey, and this is Adam Rosenberg, and this is this week's installment of the Northwest Florida Daily News' Prep Football Blitz. Get you guys set for Friday night. And I guess before we look ahead to this coming week, last week, big impressions when you look back at the week that was, what kind of stands out to you looking back?
Well, we're still looking through the smoldering wreckage of what my picks were.
Yeah.
What stands out to me is what Navarre went up and did at Crestview.
Yeah.
We picked Crestview, but even when we picked Crestview, we didn't. We said it was going to be a close game.
We thought it would be a close game.
And then Navarre just goes out there and dominates in every facet. And, I know Navarre's a good football team, and I think Crestview still is a pretty good football team, but to see what they did up there at Crestview was what surprised me the most last week.
We've talked a lot about the Navarre defense and how fast and physical they appear to be this season. To hold Crestview to 98 yards of total offense, jaw-dropping to me.
Yeah.
Really impressed with Navarre's defense. That, and I'll agree with you, that was the big story. Niceville, they took a loss to Pace. I think we found out how good Pace is, too. Richard Carrion running for 349 against Niceville. We'll start with a rare Saturday contest, ASD Silent at Rocky Bayou. This was a pretty one-sided game last year in ASD's favor. How do you like this one this year?
Well, it seems kind of counterintuitive. I'm going to pick Rocky Bayou, even though they lost 54-6 last year.
Right.
And then, full disclosure, I don't know much about ASD, whether they have the same team back. What I will say is that Rocky Bayou won a pretty big game of their own last week, 42-20 against John Paul II. James Waldron had a big game. They obviously put up a lot of points. And I think this Rocky Bayou team's different than the team that played. That team last year obviously was winless, and I just think I'm kind of on the Rocky Bayou bandwagon.
I'm the bandwagon.
I'm going to ride them. I'm going to ride them till they buck me.
All right, I understand. I'm going to go with ASD Silent. I like what Rocky Bayou's doing. I think, you mentioned James Waldron. We all know about James Waldron. Adam Downing had another big game, over 100 yards rushing for them. Key on defense as well. But I'm going to go with ASD Silent to get the win there. Now moving to Friday night's games, District 1A, Baker on the road. They're coming off a tough loss, but they're on the road at Bozeman. Who do you like in this one?
I'm going to go with Baker. I picked Baker in the upset last week, and I almost got it.
Yep.
I feel like Baker's just kind of snake-bitten at the moment. They're playing well. They're doing the right things, but just breaks are not going their way. Logan Wagner, big game last week, 245 passing yards, 2 touchdowns. There was a pick on the last drive. I'm going to apply the dreaded transitive property of football here.
Explain that to the viewers.
Baker, narrow loss to Northview last week. Bozeman lost 48-14 to Northview earlier in the season. So I'm going to say, one leads to the other. Yeah. Therefore, Baker is going to be better than Bozeman.
Makes sense. I'm going to go with Baker as well. Having these last 2 games, they've lost by a total of 10 points to South Walton, and then last week to an unbeaten Northview team. I like Baker. I like Logan Wagner. You touched on him. I like Veda more. It's just, they've been a little snake bitten. I think they go on the road. Bozeman's a team that struggled. I'm going to go with Baker as well to get that win. Huge game, Battle of the Bay. Freeport, it's also in District 1A. Freeport at South Walton. It's a game, no love lost between these two.
Right.
Big rivals. Jim Anderson's Bulldogs come in. They're undefeated in district play. David Barron's Seahawks, not undefeated. They're 2-2 in district play right now. So they can play a little bit of a role spoiler while also keeping alive their hopes at a playoff berth. How do you like this one?
This is a game that South Walton has to win.
Yeah.
Obviously, they have 4 teams ahead of them in the district race. I'm going to go ahead and pick Freeport, though. Get their second win in a row in this series after the big win last year. Paul Holmes, Nick Ellington, David Wesson, just too many weapons on offense.
Yeah.
South Walton's is a team that has a good defense, and that's kind of been their hallmark this year, winning with defense.
Right.
But if Freeport gets 3 scores on the board, I don't know if South Walton's going to have the firepower to catch up. It is a rivalry game, so you can kind of throw out, a big rivalry game. That's been a great series. But I think, Freeport's been scoring 38 points per game since that blowout loss to Milton to start the year. I'm going to go with Freeport.
Freeport, I think, just has too many horses right now. I think the South Walton, as much as they pride themselves on their defense, and rightfully so, they've got a stingy group there. Keith Stewart, one of the better defensive players in the area, small school or big school. I still think Freeport has too many horses for them. I think they go on the road, get that win, move to 4-0. Really impressed. We were touching on last week. I thought that win over Vernon really spoke volumes about where Freeport is right now.
Right.
So I'm going to go with Freeport to get that win as well. Chipley at Walton. Walton's a team we've talked about a lot, and rightfully so. Their offense is just off the charts. Liam Miller just running away with perhaps Small School Player of the Year. When you look at this matchup with Chipley, it's a district game there in 1-2B. How do you like this matchup?
Well, I was at Walton's win over FAMU last week, 52-20. I'm really glad I got to go, and I'm going to be there this week as well, because I got to see probably the most entertaining offense I've seen this year. Liam Miller knows what he's doing back there. He completed passes to 8 different receivers, touchdown passes to I think 3 or 4 different receivers, and he just, and especially in smaller schools, they don't have the guys to cover that many targets. You can't just shut down Corliss Stone, which kind of seemed like it might have been FAMU's game plan because he only caught a couple balls. But everyone else, Levi Shipper, those guys.
Chris Hall, a little bit.
Yeah, Chris Hall, 3 sacks. The defense, of course, was great. They held FAMU to 143 total yards.
Yep.
I think right now Walton's the team to beat in that district, and they're gonna win this game.
Yeah, that game with Pensacola Catholic is going to be one to watch. The past couple of seasons, that's what it's come down to. I like Walton as well. That offense, like you said, it's clicking on all cylinders. There's so many weapons. It's a fun group to watch, and you'll be there Friday night. So yeah, we're going with Walton there. Moving up to 3A football now, Arnold at Choctaw. Choctaw coming off a huge loss to Pensacola, defending 3A state champions. They're back home now, hosting an Arnold team that you would think they could have some success against. How do you like that matchup?
Well, I'm going to go with Arnold here. I know they're not Pensacola, which is who Choctaw lost to last week. But, Pensacola didn't punt against Choctaw last week.
Right.
And that's never a good sign.
Right.
When I know Pensacola's great, that's been established, but Choctaw provided very little resistance. We were able to hear some comments that Coach Greg Thomas made to Adam Pruitt for the story that's going to run in Thursday's paper, and he said they would have lost to pretty much anyone on their schedule the way they played last week, and I think it's got kind of a hangover. They could come out kind of like Niceville, like I'm expecting Niceville to, and play angry. And take Arnold to the woodshed, but I'm going to go with Arnold in this one.
I'm going to go with Choctaw. I just think you look at who Choctaw's played all season. They've played too high caliber of an opponent to slip up. I think Arnold's a team they can beat, much like Rutherford was, and this game's at home, so I'm going to go with Choctaw in this one. Shifting back to 4A now, Navarre coming off that huge win over Crestview at Crestview. They return home. It's going to be a big night. Ian Lockwood will be playing his final high school game there. They're hosting Milton in district action. I like Navarre. Who do you like?
I'm going to go with Navarre. You can't pick against a team that just, proved me wrong last week with a 49-0 drubbing up in Crestview. One of the things we pointed to last week was that we thought Crestview had a little bit more big play ability than Navarre. Well, Navarre, they had their first score of the game came off a 35-yard play that led to a 23-yard touchdown play.
Right.
That's big plays right there. Colton Kane's coming into his own for sure. Had a great game throwing the football. I think Navarre at home gets the win.
I think Colton Kane, man, he's really become the linchpin of that offense. Dwayne Carr's a great little running back, but over 600 yards passing for Kane. He runs the ball really well. I like Navarre, and I like where they're heading as they get into the meat of that district schedule. Keeping on, Niceville at Mosley. We kind of touched on it earlier. Anxious to see how Niceville responds coming off a 31-17 loss at home. How do you like this one?
I'm going to go with Niceville. They're going to play a little angry because they, defensively, Richard Carrion kind of embarrassed them last week. That's a team that prides themselves on defense, and rightfully so. They've been playing great defense throughout the season, but they gave up, a 95-yard touchdown run, 4 other runs of over 20 yards, and that's something that, probably points more to missed assignments and missed missed gaps and stuff like that. So I think they're going to come out, they're going to play angry, but I still think it's going to be a fairly close game.
Yeah, I think so too. And I think, you look at pace, I think what you saw in that game too was they established themselves as maybe one of the better teams in the Panhandle. When you run for that many yards, that's impressive. But I like Niceville in this one. Mosley's a team that scored a lot of points. They're averaging just under 50, I think 47 points a game. It helps when you score 73 on a 3A school. A lot of averages, but I still like Niceville. Mosley is going to be without 3 of those key cogs in that backfield with injuries. And like you said, Niceville will be playing a little angry. I'm going to pick Niceville going on the road, start 2 4A play with a win. Brings us to our game of the week, also District 2 4A matchup, a rivalry matchup, Fort Walton Beach visiting Crestview. It's been a close game the last couple of years. Who do you like in this one?
I'm going to go with Fort Walton Beach. Obviously, I think Crestview is going to play better than they did last week.
They can't play worse.
Yeah, they can't. That's true. Fort Walton Beach, coming off their first win of the year finally. I think they're finally got that monkey off their back. Their offense, they're starting to get a little more comfortable with it. Steve Strano wasn't quite as otherworldly as he was against Clover, but still had another good game. The defense stepped up, and I think when you see the offense step up like they did against Clover, the defense step up like they did against Milton, if you can get those kind of clicking on the same day, they'll come out with a win in Crestview.
I like Fort Walton's defense a lot, and we joke about Crestview and the egg they laid last week. Yeah, Crestview's going to play better. I would expect that as well. I like Fort Walton Beach to go on the road and get this win. I just think Fort Walton Beach's defense with their speed can hem up Crestview, similar to what we saw with Navarre. So I'm going to go with Fort Walton Beach. So they will have set the stage maybe for a big Fort Walton Beach-Niceville game later in the season.
Right.
See.
Well, that'll do it for us this week. Thanks for tuning in, and enjoy all the games this weekend. We'll see you next week.